So I come at all of you today in this recording to talk about writing, something that I have long since loved and cherished since childhood, of course in addition to painting and drawing. Writing is something that has always come satisfactorily to me, and provided that tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of my journal writing, I think it's only fair that I discuss writing and what it means to me. I'm also influenced and inclined to talk about this as one of my very sweet friends whose daughters are actresses from Louisiana is looking into having a novel published. I couldn't be more happy and excited for her in her quest to become a published author. Crystal, I love you, Chickpea. I hope you bounce high as an author, and please give your gals hugs and kisses for me. Much like having typed out this message that I'm reading to all of you, writing became one of my best tactile hobbies, exercising the art of dexterity beginning at age 13. I'm currently 32, and my love for writing has in fact had its ups and downs. Some days I'm inspired to write, and some days not. But after having put in so many years of prolific writing, my life has been recorded and documented as I transition from teenager to young adult to adult. Anyone who has ever opened a single page of any of my journals, from the earliest days of my writing until now, you will have noticed huge differences. My penmanship had changed, my improper grammar and misuse of punctuation marks had improved, my vocabulary expanded, and my style of writing had also changed. In the mid to late 2000s, I was extremely heavy into poetry and heavily influenced by the music of the Beatles, which was 40 years prior to then. I envision myself as a John Lennon or a Jim Morrison of modern-day poetry. The Beatles had influenced a generation and changed the scope of music forever, and I pictured myself as that same kind of revolutionary, free-thinking poet, unencumbered of societal expectations and placements, and influenced others to be the same way. That was the rebel side of me, and I wanted to somehow revolutionize writing and show others that they too can make a difference if only they sit down long enough to concentrate on writing their thoughts and feelings. It started off rather interesting, especially with my own family and some other people around me. They would pick up on writing journals and diaries and trying their hand at a poem here and there, but it was all short-lived and quickly petered out. They put their pens down, and I kept mine busy. It was my official position to embrace being myself as an individual and as a writer. And if I wanted to be admired as someone important, I just had to be myself in every aspect of life. I'd like to think of myself as a philosopher of sorts, primarily and particularly as one who has gone through traumatic life experiences and situations. Poetry had become a very useful tool to convey ideas and stories that I had allowed to circle around in my mind. Much different from writing in the journal, where I'm so matter-of-fact on everything I write about, poetry was another door that opened for me, another outlet where I could plug creativity and imagination, which then led to the idea and the design of an unpublished children's story I had written called The Jaredmobile in 2013, detailing the pratfalls and silly scenarios of a car that, in the child's imagination, they are driving into. Figuratively speaking, however, I allowed for someone else to sit in the driver's seat. Imagine that. Up until that point, when I discovered that I can add spice and different angles to my large body of work called The Story of a Lifetime, I was always a serious writer in the journal and the contemporary writer in the poetry. The Jaredmobile project had freed me from the responsibility of being the serious writer, and although it was extremely time-consuming to put it all together myself, I still had a wonderful time creating it. My journals are, in fact, the core of what The Story of a Lifetime is. Without the journals, there would be no TSOAL. The idea behind the title The Story of a Lifetime was to suggest that these would be the days when we, together, would have memories to share and stories of our own to tell. A block of time that we all shared together and made it through on the other side. The Story of a Lifetime is the story of your lifetime, and I am happy enough to look back on all of it and be amazed that I had survived even the most edgy situations. There's been lots of loss, lots of gain, and a whole lot of sustain. And my journals have sustained and stood the test of a lifetime. As I matured through teenage life dealing with personal issues, my journal had become my very best friend. We've been companions for nearly 2 decades, and my work as a writer is never ending. I had explored various different angles of writing, how I would express myself openly and freely to the reader, and without a shadow of a doubt, I have on numerous occasions made plenty of mistakes along the way. I have noticed significant changes within myself as an individual, and changes within my thinking and thought processes as I write all of them down onto paper. Not every journal entry will be magnificent, and not every poem will be peppered with pulchritude, but what I can assure you, the reader, is that everything I've ever written in my life was an all-or-nothing situation. The saying is that you are your own worst critic, which carries an abundance of weight and truth, considering that I haven't always been satisfied with everything I've written. I have plenty of regrets on many of the things I've written because, much in the same way as we say aggressive things to one another in the heat of the moment, once it's written you can't take it back. I regret not using certain words in my poetry, or not using an obvious storyline that could have otherwise monumentally changed the entire outcome of the poem itself, especially if I'm writing a story poem. There is a synchronized rhythm of words and poems. When you read them, there's a bit of a vibration as you read through. Many of you who are listening to this were also born prior to November 16, 1999. Many of you were born after, which also fascinates me to a certain extent because you're listening to this audio recording today, and you're listening to a man who has done a few things before you were even born, before you were even an idea in someone's mind. The Story of a Lifetime has been an underground project since I started it, but it's a relief to be able to share some of my work with all of you, primarily the poetry. Now I guess it's not so underground anymore, which is fine by me. If you are someone who has always shown an interest in writing, my hat's off to you. As for me, I'm coming up on the 19th anniversary of the one thing that I never thought I'd be doing: journaling. And let me tell you, these past 19 years have been one hell of a ride. Oh, I'm sure that I'll still be here doing my thing in the next 19 years, and I hope by then you'll still be following my work as I continue to write out the days of what I call the story of a lifetime.